Hello, Unified community. Welcome to the Unified Exchange podcast, where we at Special Olympics Minnesota share ideas and stories that foster inclusion in and outside the classroom. Each episode, you can expect us to cover a variety of topics to help grow the unified programming happening at your school. Our hope is that these conversations can inspire change, cultivate leaders, and transform environments that embrace each other's differences.
Welcome back to the Unified Exchange. My name is Maxine Jennings on behalf of the school's team at Special Olympics Minnesota. This episode, we have the opportunity to learn from Maia Miller, Work Experience Coordinator at Champlain Park High School, and Peter Meyer, Event Manager at Special Olympics Minnesota and Cool School Plunge expert. So now let's jump right into our team connector. Each episode of the Unified Exchange concludes with the Special Olympics Athlete Oath. Let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. Who in your life has demonstrated the principle of bravery to you? And I will go first. So Abby Pearson is my coworker, and she has demonstrated bravery to me. She's actually the person that I did my first polar plunge with, and I was so scared, but she is brave in everything that she does. Peter?
I think for me would be another Special Olympic athlete, Eric Anderson. We took the plunge together this past year, and I was nervous about it. He was nervous about it. I think he had a little bit of an injury and wasn't sure how the extended hole in the Minneapolis water would go, and you basically have to swim to shore. But he sucked it up and jumped in and had a great time, and it was an awesome experience.
Awesome. For me, I would say I have two people that come to mind. Both are students. One's name is Amory Peterson. He is a partner who used to attend Champlain Park, and the other is Sophie Torgerson, and she they both together, they had this great friendship and connection, and they just, specifically for the mobile school plunge, Sophie would get a little bit nervous, and just their partnership together, I think that they both really demonstrate bravery.
That's awesome. I'm thinking of I think it was one of the Cool School Plunges that one of the elementary students wanted to jump into, and he asked do you remember this? He asked his unified partner in the high school to stand in the water and wait for him. And
yes,
I think that student waited for maybe 10 minutes in the water while he kept standing in the freezing cold water. And then finally he jumped in kind of, but was mostly just carried with his toes in the water across it. But that's something that I think the polar plunge really brings out is bravery in people that we see every day, but it's really fun in such a celebratory way. So thanks for engaging in our Team Connector. We're going to jump right in to game time. And during our game time segment this morning, we're going to discuss sustainability. With over 370 Unified Champion schools statewide, Special Olympics Minnesota's Cool School Plunge program has become an integral part of supporting Unified Champion school opportunities. Peter, as our team expert, what is the Cool School Plunge?
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it before, it's basically this massive trailer that gets brought into your school. It's we have two trailers actually, so one is 38 feet long, one is 40 feet long. Big, bright red, you can't miss it. A lot of people ask, well, what does it look like? And I'll just say, wait till you see it, you'll know exactly what it is. There's no mistaking it for anything else. Some people describe it as a dumpster on wheels. It was modified from an industrial dumpster originally and into a pool, which is really, really cool. So we have pool lining in it, we have full filtration in it, and we pull it up to your school and work with either a local group or local fire department to fill it up with water. And people jump in it like it's a polar plunge in a lake. It's essentially bringing the lake to you. Students are able to fundraise to support Special Olympics Minnesota. They receive incentive items back, t-shirts, hats, backpacks, coolers, whatever the incentive items are for the year, and then just have a blast together. A lot of kids coming together that maybe wouldn't otherwise interact on a day-by-day basis in the school, and now all supporting athletes within the school and across the state.
That's awesome. I feel like only in Minnesota would we have so many lakes but still have a mobile lake to bring to our schools for our love of lakes. Maia, before we jump into bringing the Cool School Plunge to your school, can you share the journey of bringing Unified to Champlain Park, and now you're a National Banner School.
Yeah, we've come a long ways. So I was actually approached by a former Special Olympics Minnesota staff member. Mm-hmm. He was in touch with a community member who happened to be a parent of a student at Champlain Park High School, and those two had approached the school district and had kind of hit some barriers, and then for some reason my name came up, and they set up a meeting with me. They told me what Unified was. I had never heard of it, and it was a big yes right away. We didn't really know. I was given kind of this roadmap of what Unified could look like in a school, what things that we could start out with, ideas, and I had some students in mind, and we ran with it. That was actually back in 2019, and so we had our first club I think it was like February of 2020, right before everything shut down. And so we had a great time. We had our first club, and then we actually ended up having virtual clubs as school got back going the next year, and we just kept with it, kept going, kept having clubs. We started out a little bit slowly with sports, but doing as much as was offered, and we've kept growing. So yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know about kind of that journey over COVID and growing through it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What are some of the sports that you do now?
Yeah, so we started out doing bocce ball, which was great, and basketball, and we just keep going with everything that Special Olympics offers. We do soccer. We've also started to host some invitationals or go to invitationals that are hosted. So flag football is on the docket, soccer, basketball. We did do bocce ball. We've done some cornhole tournaments, some poly hockey stuff. So yeah.
That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about how in your role as work experience coordinator, you've been able to bring Unified in?
Yeah, so a work experience coordinator, for people who don't know, my background is special education. During the school day, I work with students who are on IEPs who need services. And that has allowed me to, unlike many special ed teachers where they're teaching maybe a specific content area or a specific grade, I work with all students at our high school who receive services. So that allows me just this huge range of students I work with. And then we have also partnered with non-disabled students in our school to broaden that work base, because in a work setting, everyone should be at work. And so we're trying to emulate that at school as well. So my position has just lended well to being able to bring in students with and without disabilities, which is exactly what Unified is.
That's awesome. That one of my favorite things that I have seen in your program at basketball is your student coaches and how well you prepare them. And we talk a lot about when it's student-led, then that's when you really see the success. But we need that champion, which you've been within your school. And then those students, and I think usually they have their suits on and they're ready to coach, and it's so professional. But when it comes to sustainability, what were some of the initial barriers and challenges that you overcame in the process?
Yeah, I would say a couple of the initial barriers is that we are in one of the largest school districts in the state, and so a lot of times things have to be very uniform between the schools, and as of right now, we are the only school in Anoka-Hennepin that has a sustainable unified program. So that was a barrier at the beginning. COVID was a barrier. Just not having any background in unified was a barrier for me. But we just kept, right away we saw the benefits and how amazing this program was, and so we just kept pushing through. On the opposite end of that, one support piece that I've always had is from the administration in my specific building, and so that has definitely helped us overcome barriers. Other barriers, financial. So right away, Special Olympics helped us with money, busing, things like that. But that is definitely, for those who are starting out, a program the financial aspect of it can be pretty daunting. So that was a barrier, but we had help from Special Olympics and then other things that we did that helped us, save some money, make money, fundraise, which is what we're going to talk about today, and yeah.
Awesome. Peter, how does the Cool School Plunge help reduce barriers in schools?
Yeah, I mean, just building off of what Maia was just talking about as far as sustainability, one thing I didn't mention in the beginning of the pod here is that there is a 35% revenue share that goes back to schools. So at the conclusion of the event or in the weeks after, we tally everything up and send 35% back. And that kind of takes the place of maybe those initial years helping out. This is now a way to make sure that not only are your students learning how to support Special Olympics Minnesota, but get that kickback in order to help with busing was one thing mentioned, or really anything that your program needs. On top of that, I think the coolest thing about it is that it just promotes unity amongst everybody in the school. Initially, I think those who sign up are going to be people who are already involved in Unified and Special Olympics to any degree. And then eventually, as word leaks out, as you guys market it within the school, it reaches groups that maybe haven't had an experience with Unified and brings them all together. And people start talking about it, and it becomes sort of a thing that is spoken about in hallways. And oh my gosh, are you going to do I'm so nervous about the plunge. It's going to be so cold. And then other people might come in and just have that whole conversation and bring everybody together in a way that probably wouldn't otherwise be possible without an event like that.
Yeah, that's kind of a perfect segue into our next question. Maia, what have been best practices for spreading the word and building momentum for the Cool School Plunge? And maybe if you could think of the first year you did it versus now, does it look different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. We've definitely learned as we've gone. I'd say one of the biggest helpful things that has happened is Special Olympics has always sent us a kit that has marketing tools. It's got posters, it's got buttons, it's got everything really that you need to kind of get your campaign up and running, including a timeline of when everything needs to start. And when our first year happened, I remember being very nervous because I don't know if it was you, Peter, who told me, but we weren't getting registrations besides, our core Unified kids, and we weren't getting registrations, and I was very nervous, but I remember someone told me that the registrations are going to come in at the very end, and man, do they really do. So we always do our plunge right after our spring break, and so we have spring break, and then we have a week, and then our plunge is that next week. So we have about a week and a half between spring break and our plunge. And we definitely start our campaign before spring break, but really we hit the ground hard in that week and a half beforehand. And we really get the most registration probably that week of the plunge. Our plunge is always on a Thursday, so that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is when we get so many people registering. As far as the way that we market it, we use the tools that Special Olympics gives us, but we also utilize, I know a lot of schools have like a TV show that they do daily or weekly or whatever, so we utilize that a lot. We have learned that it's really important to get our teachers involved who, the Polar Plunge has been an awesome opportunity to, our teachers know what Unified is, we have a lot of support in our school, but our school is huge, and this has been a great way to get teachers to come out and jump, and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is what you guys were doing. I had no idea. So that's awesome. We've also found that competitions also help raise money. Mm-hmm. So spreading the word that way, getting people in that competitive spirit to, hey, if we raise this much money, this staff member will jump, or if this teacher raises enough money, they'll wear this costume or whatever, and that gets kids fired up. So So from our first year to this year, it's much more smooth. We have a process. We know what we're doing. We still have the help from Special Olympics. This year, this was the first year that we ever had, we've always had support from our administrators, but they've never jumped before this year. So this year, our principal actually jumped, and he just so happened to have like a principal meeting that day, so he was like, I don't know if I can jump. Well, he got another principal from another high school in our district to jump with him, and our athletic director. And a couple of days after our plunge, that other principal reached out to me and said, how do we do this? So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's really cool. And one of the things I want to point out is that you do get registrations late in the process every
Yes.
time. And I get nervous on my end, and I know the educators get nervous on their end. But I really want to emphasize that those wouldn't come in late if it wasn't for the work that you did in the months leading up. It's not like nothing was happening and now all of a sudden kids are just going to sign up. You were putting posters up, you were that TV show that gets displayed in the school. Like, kids wouldn't sign up if they didn't know what it was, and the only way they know what it was is because of all the recruiting efforts that may seem like a drag at first. You're like, oh my gosh, this is adding 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week sometimes to my plate. I don't and nothing is coming back, nobody's signing up, and then all of a sudden, bam, it does, and it's like, oh my goodness, this was worth it.
Yeah.
So any educators that are out there listening to this that get nervous about that kind of thing, it's okay. It will take care of itself as long as you're doing your due diligence and continuing to push it. And word of mouth is huge, and getting other educators on board and other coaches on board is huge. They can help that recruitment on their end with the relationships that they have, especially in the really big schools where you don't know every student. You may barely even know all the other educators at times. And so getting those folks on board to help reach the corners of the school that you aren't able to get into is key.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning the coaches. Coaches are a huge part of it as well. And then also, it's hard at first, but as you keep going year after year, putting your students in charge of it is key. They will take ownership, and that is more difficult, when you first start out. But as every year, a little bit more, those students taking ownership, and they will run with it. And they are the ones that get their friends to jump, that get their classmates to jump. They're the ones that do it, so.
Peter, can you share the process? We've talked a little bit about the marketing kits, but the process of communication and support leading up to the plunge from the team at Special Olympics Minnesota, and also just curious how many plunges you did last year.
Last year, I'll start with that one. I believe we had, I want to say, I don't know the number between schools and corporate because we do some corporate plunges too. I know we did 58 total plunges last school year, so that includes last fall of 2024 into the spring of 2025. I want to say something like 52 of them were school plunges, which is an awesome number. I mean, when I first came on board 3.5 years ago, we were doing about 15 to 20. Champlin was one of them and has helped spearhead that. And since then, we've just seen really remarkable growth. As far as the first question, though, what does communication and support look like? It's hard, right? Like we host as many meetings as any school needs, and especially in that first year, it's probably 3 or 4 virtual meetings. We will sometimes stop out at the school to do a physical tour as well if there's some questions about, well, man, I don't even know where this trailer is going to go. It seems so huge. Where in the parking lot even makes sense? We can certainly stop out and do those types of things. And then as schools get more comfortable, I think you and I probably had 2 10-minute meetings last year. That was just like a reminder, here are the checklists, and you're like, yep, got it, yep, got it, yep, got it. And it's pretty turnkey at this point. That being said, we're always available for questions that pop up. There's a lot of quick little one-off questions if kids sign up wrong or grandma and grandpa donated to the wrong profile. We can take care of those things on our end very, very easily, and then the educator can just reach out directly to myself or another colleague to make those fixes. So we just try and stay in as close communication as possible. Sometimes it's email, sometimes it's phone calls, sometimes it's texting, whatever works best. And and try and help, because ultimately the educator's voice is the one that makes a difference in the school. There's only so much we can do on our end. So really what we try and do is over communicate when we can and just remind the educators that, hey, we are here for a lot of those questions. You're handling everything on the school side directly from students, directly from parents, but please filter those to us and we will take as much off your plate as we can.
I think something that I really appreciated, and I know when Osteo High School was looking at hosting, I think seeing it happen is also really helpful. So their liaison came and visited Maia and saw the registration process and how it looked day of, and I think that helped her conceptualize what it would be like and advocate with it. And then they have hosted it since then, and it's been a really great success. So I think that's another support that we're really lucky to have, just this fantastic educator network. That we're so thankful for. Okay, one on kind of from the logistics to some of the fun parts of the plunge. What is a favorite memory of hosting the Cool School Plunge? Favorite few?
A few, yeah. I definitely, so over the years, we always host at the end of March and the weather is dicey. I definitely I feel like the colder, the better. I know that's not what anyone really wants to hear, but I definitely remember those, and I mean, it's nice when it's sunny and a little bit warmer, but it's a plunge, so it's supposed to be cold. One of my favorite memories was, I can't remember if it was our first year or our second year, but this goes back to when you kind of described the plunge stir. So the plunge stir is super accessible for anyone. I had a student who was very nervous. She was an athlete and she did not want to go jump, and so there's also a part of the plunge stir where there's a bucket and people can stand underneath the bucket and have the bucket pulled, and so the water gets dumped on you. That's what we did. We did that instead of jumping, and she took the plunge and I went right with her. So that was a good memory. Mm-hmm.
Did you put any ice in the bucket?
I don't know. I didn't do it. Peter did it.
No ice. It's up high enough that would probably hurt if ice fell on you from that height. Yeah.
I think that we learned that the water from the fire trucks is actually colder than we would think.
It depends. There's times where it's like lukewarm, and that's just based on the weather.
Yeah.
We've done plunges in March that are 70 degrees and some in April that are 20 degrees. But yeah, I always like the colder ones too. Yeah. I mean, selfishly, the warmer the better. Yeah. If I'm out there in a t-shirt and shorts, I'm much happier. But you're right, it's a plunge. It's meant to be cold. It's meant to shock the system. I chuckle a little bit at the warm plunges where kids are really amping themselves up and they're so nervous and it takes so much coaxing, and they jump in and they're like, oh. I'm like, that's not the reaction we really wanted here.
I remember one of my very first years up in Alexandria, and it was so cold that there was ice coming down the sides from students walking down.
Yep.
I think that was one of the coldest ones, but
Alexandria always gets a cold day.
I think that they love the cold day.
They do.
But you have to share the hack that you did to get the what is it off of the side of the plunge?
So there's the drains on the side of the plunge stir that kind of shoot out from underneath, and they're just in PVC piping. I don't think you've seen this issue yet, but sometimes on the really cold days they'll freeze because there's just a ball joint and it's plastic, so the water that sits in there freezes up very easily, and in Alexandria it froze up. Couldn't get it open, so we're like, oh my god, like what are we gonna have to scoop buckets out of this thing? No, so Keith Melrose, the police officer up there who helps us quite a bit, and I literally laid on the ground under the plunge stir. Couldn't use a heat gun because it's PVC piping and you're worried about it melting, so we used a hair dryer and plugged it into our generator and just aimed it at the ball joint. It felt like we were under there for half an hour. Realistically, it was probably like 5 or 6 minutes, and it got it just enough to break the ice. And we were so pumped that we didn't have to be there all day scooping it out by hand.
Yeah. So do you have a hair dryer on hand?
Yes, there's one in the truck at all times now.
Okay, good. Peter, what are next steps for educators interested in hosting a Cool School Plunge?
Yeah, so if you have a contact with Special Olympics on the schools team, you can reach out directly to them. Otherwise, there's an interest form on the website as well, both on the Plunge website and on the Special Olympics website under the Unified page. I don't know if you have the ability to put graphics up on the screen that's like, click me.
We'll figure it out.
Maybe I just put too much pressure on you. Either way, reach out to your contact, fill out the interest form, and then someone from our team will reach out this fall and kind of get the ball rolling. We do host plunges in the fall as well. Obviously, things get really, really busy when school kicks off, so you sort of have to be able to hit the ground running. But there's plenty of dates in the fall, and then the spring is the most popular time to host because you have all school year to kind of figure things out and get used to your new unified club, appoint student leaders, train them up, and be in communication with us. So that would be the next step.
Awesome. I think the commonality I see with educators is funds or no funds, they find ways to provide opportunities for their students. But Maia, with the funds that you have received through the revenue share, what are some opportunities that it's opened up for your students?
Yeah, so I'll just say our club and where we're at now would not be sustainable if it weren't for the mobile school plunge. That is what brings in all of our funds, almost, besides maybe a couple donations here and there, that keep us running all year. One of our biggest costs is transportation to and from events, so like sporting events that we go to or other outings that we do with other unified schools. Busing costs anywhere from $200 to $400 a time per bus, and so this is huge in providing that money for that cost. We've also been able to buy uniforms that are required for some of our sporting events. This is what, if we ever have any costs related to our club that we host weekly, we are able to use those funds. Really, anything like that. We've also, my student leadership team has thrown around the idea of trying to maybe up what we're raising and do some scholarships as well. Our school does an annual scholarship night at the end of the year for seniors who are graduating and moving on. And so my students came up with that idea last year and said it'd be really awesome if we could do something like that. So hopefully we'll get to that point.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's a really awesome goal. Well, that concludes the game time questions, and I appreciate both of your willingness to share from your expertise. We are going to close out this episode with our leadership drill, and this is a part of the show where we share a frequently asked question or a question from someone in our audience. Today, our leadership drill question is from our Unified Champion School intern, Brianna King. So Brianna's question for you, Maia, is how does your Unified Club reach out to your community?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have various ways that we reach out to the community, and reaching out to the community has helped us grow so much. So I'll just kind of go through a couple of ways that we do that. One, through the Mobile School Plunge, we have reached out and partnered with our local fire and police departments. So that has been awesome. So that's one way. Another way is, again, through the plunge, we need volunteers, and so our school has a volunteer coordinator who I have enlisted the help of, and then she reaches out to the community for us to say, hey, here's this volunteer opportunity. And so we've had parents and other community members see that need, and they have come, and that's just been another way for more of our community to see our plunge. Away from the plunge, we have partnered with some other local high schools that also have unified. So Maple Grove High School and Osseo, we have done some really cool things with basketball with them the past couple of years, where we just do kind of a little halftime game at a varsity basketball game. And that has really shown our communities what we're about, what Unified is, the fact that, oh my gosh, these two schools are doing this together. We're not even in the same school district, but we are connecting and we are unified, not just as a school, but as a community. So those are some ways that we reach out to the community.
It's really awesome to know. I think it's amazing. I remembered when I was a liaison at a school, the halftime show was such a highlight and one of my favorite parts of the year. So we'll head into our cool down, which allows us the opportunity to leave our listeners with a nugget of wisdom. So our final question for the day is, what advice would you give to our youth, educators, athletes, and families on how they can implement whole school engagement?
Me? Okay. I would say enlisting the help of your students who are in your unified club. I would say whole school engagement is probably the pillar that we do it, but we struggle the most with it. So we're always looking at opportunities to how can we get our whole school engaged, because we're at a school of over 3,000 students, and it's very important to us to keep spreading unified beyond our club. And so getting our students to be the ones who are connecting with their peers, getting more teachers involved who are in our school but maybe don't exactly know what unified is, and enlisting the help and support of your administrators is really important. The other thing that's really important is enlisting the help of the parents of both your athletes and your partners who are involved in unified. The parents see the effect outside of school, and there is an effect outside of school. They see changes in their students. They see their students hanging out with friends that maybe they didn't hang out with before. And the voices of the parents to the school, to the district, is just so impactful that we really couldn't do it without them either.
It's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so much wisdom for our listeners to hear and to know. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Peter, for your Cool School Plunge expertise.
You got it.
We will head into our opportunity share segment.
We are rolling into our last segment of the episode, which is the opportunity share segment. Listeners, this is the prime time for you to stay in the know of what's happening at Special Olympics Minnesota. My colleague Santi on the schools team is here to join me today.
Thank you, Abby. It's great to be here. I loved learning more about mobile Cool School Plunges and whole school engagement from Maia and Peter. During our opportunity share, we will always have UCS staff share upcoming UCS and SOMN events for you all to stay in the know of what's happening and find opportunities to stay involved with our state office. For our listeners today, we would like to continue highlighting Cool School Plunges and hosting whole school engagement assemblies by sharing the opportunities available to all of you. With that said, Abby, what are your favorite parts about doing polar plunges, and what did it feel like to take your very first plunge?
The first time I plunged, I felt cold. I didn't know what to expect. Luckily, I had a few friends also plunging for the first time with me. My favorite parts about taking the polar plunge is spending time with friends and having the post-plunge rush of energy.
Thanks for describing your first plunge and favorite parts of plunging. And by the way, how many Cool School Plunges have you done? And what draws you back to plunge every year, raising money for both Special Olympics Minnesota and your community team?
I have done the lake plunge 23 times and school cool plunges 3 times. I want to plunge every year because I am now a professional and can help people who have never done it before. There's a lot of excitement and fun. I get to see a lot of my friends jump in too, and I like fundraising for my team in Special Olympics. Santi, for our listeners, what are the 2 ways schools can get involved with polar plunges?
You are an amazing plunger. Wow. All right, great question, Abby. One way is what Maia and Peter discussed in this episode, a mobile Cool School Plunge, which means we bring the plunge directly to you using the Plungester, which is our custom designed mobile plunge pool. Students, staff, families, community members, all from your school can take a plunge while raising money for both Special Olympics Minnesota and your school. The second way is a Cool School Plunge at a lake. This is where various schools plunge into a lake in one day, all to raise funds for both Special Olympics Minnesota and their own school, such as the Minneapolis Cool School Plunge, part of our largest plunge weekend of the season. You can learn more about both opportunities by getting the conversation started with your UCS contact and the Polar Plunge team, while figuring out which is the best plunge option for your school. Abby, I know that you have been invited to speak at whole school engagement assemblies. Some of those assemblies were connected to plunges, and some assemblies were independent of plunges that were completely organized by schools. Can you please tell us more about your experiences attending and speaking at these whole school engagement assemblies organized by schools? Why do you think getting the entire school involved in planning and being part of a whole school engagement assembly is so important?
During the school year, I go to schools to speak to students. I tell them my experience in high school and how I've grown into the person I am now. I think whole school engagement is important because people with and without disabilities get to interact and spend time together. For our listeners, what can you recommend is the best way to start to plan for a whole school engagement assembly?
Love this question. Your UCS staff member can provide you with a whole school engagement assembly Dropbox for students and school staff to plan and host their own whole school engagement assembly, which includes a how-to video, a potential script, and many other helpful resources. This is a great opportunity for your school to lean into the whole school engagement pillar for Unified. So that's all for our Opportunity Share segment in this episode. If you have any questions on how to become more involved or are looking for more information, please send us an email at schools@somn.org. Abby, will you close us out with the athlete oath?
As an athlete for 20 years with SOMN, I would love to. Are you ready, Santi?
You bet, born ready.
Let me win. But if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. That's a wrap for episode 4 of the Unified Exchange.